Lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, and shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps toward the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside you and the meaningful within. It is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on the street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. I'm going to take you on a metaphysical journey about thought. Follow me down the yellow brick road here. The universe, all that is, everything, is the mind of God. And God is all-encompassing, unconditional, perfect love. All-encompassing means all that is. There can be nothing else. All-encompassing. There can be nothing else but love. And only love is real and true. So that means that only love can have any reality, therefore any meaning. Expressions of love, acts of love, gifts of love, thoughts of love are the very building blocks of the universe. It's like the heartbeat of God, the mind of God, the ideas of God. It's love upon love upon love upon love upon love upon love. God, who is all-encompassing love, is the creator. God created us as one perfect, whole, complete extension, expression, image of himself. Therefore, as an extension and child of God, we have all of the attributes and qualities of God also within our minds. All the strength, all the love, all the perfection, all the power of God. The Course says the only difference between us and God is that He created us. We did not create Him. He is the creator. We are the created. He is the Father. We are the Son. He is the thought that generated us. We are the effect, the extension, the result. So what is the power of God, which we also have? The power of God lies in creation. Creation can only produce love, because love is all there is in the mind of God in the universe, ultimately. So, when we were created to be creators. The only difference is we didn't create God, but He created us and meant for us to go create. What did He mean for us to create? The Course says, child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, the holy. You were created to be a miracle worker. You were created to express love in a loveless world. So our power as children of God, with all the attributes of God within us, lies in creating. When we are creating, we are extending love. Our power is in expressing love, extending love. The Course says that when we are thinking loving thoughts, we are co-creating. That is when we have joined up with the truth of who we are, love. That is when we have joined up with the mind of God. And that means we are in a partnership. That is when we are co-creating with God. Now, when we are not thinking the thoughts of God, when we are judging, blaming, in victimhood, in limitation, when we are throwing guilt at someone, when we are casting judgment upon someone, when we're angry, when we're frustrated, when we're taking it all out on another person, then we are not joined with the mind of God. We are not co-creating. God would not even consider anything loveless or unloving. It wouldn't even cross His mind, because He's all-encompassing love. So the Course says in those moments, consider what you're thinking about another person that God would not be thinking, and consider what you're not seeing, what you're not thinking about a person that God would be thinking. So if we aren't thinking with love, the Course says we're not thinking at all. Not with our highest mind, not joined with the mind of God, the mind of love, which is all there is. So we're not thinking at all. We're hallucinating. And we are entertaining a thought that we can make a hallucination real. The Course also says, it reminds us, that all thinking produces form at some level. All thinking, even hallucinatory thinking, will produce some kind of effect, because thought, that's our power. That's the power of God. The creative power is the power of the mind. And we have that too. So we can think what we want to think, but even loveless thinking, even if it's a hallucination, will have some kind of effect. We have free will, because God has free will. So we can think however we want. I like to say, when people ask me, why would the ego even be created? Why would we think thoughts of separation, which are concepts that have not been introduced in the workbook per se yet? And I say, because it's my mind and I can hallucinate if I want to. I'm a child of God. I can entertain any idea I want to, and then I'm that powerful that boom, a world was made out of my hallucination for me to experience that entertaining thought, to experience that, what would it be like if I were separate? Free will. So we have free will in the world, and we can think however we want to think. This is how important your thoughts are, how important it is to watch your thinking. We can think however we want to think, but in those moments when we are not thinking with God, when we're not thinking with love, loving thought, the Course says we are not creating, we are miscreating. We're miscreating. And that you can be unconscious about your thoughts. You can even deny the power of your thought, but you cannot diminish the power of your mind. Thought creates form on some level. Thought produces form on some level. Miscreate or create. The Course says what you think, you will believe, because that part of your mind will find evidence to support that thought. And it says you are limited to the effects of your belief. So when you focus on something and you put conviction and belief and faith behind that, then the effects of that, whether loving or loveless, will be real for you. So you are either limited by the loveless effects of your belief when you miscreate, or you are liberated by the loving effects, the real effects, the meaningful effects of your belief when you co-create with God. The good news is, even when we miscreate, even when we're not thinking straight, when we're not aligned with the mind of God, the effects, though they seem real, can be undone. Why? Because we're hallucinating. It's not reality. And it is, the Course says, like clouds in front of the sun, what seems like a dense fog, but when you drive through it or walk through it, it's just a light mist that you can pass easily through. But it looks like it's an obstacle in your way. It's really nothing. That's what lovelessness is. That's what the fear and anxiety and overwhelming chaos of the world is. It feels real because we give it so much belief, and we give it the power, because we have the power is our thought, what we think about it. But it's not. If it's not real, it can be changed. It's not eternal if it's not of love. Therefore, it's temporary. Therefore, it can be changed. It can be abolished. It can be nullified. It can be purified. It can be corrected. And that is the whole point of this course, is teaching you how to do that. These thoughts do not mean anything. These thoughts do not mean anything. These thoughts about this lesson, do this practice. It might surprise you what comes up for you. And whatever it is that pops into your mind, whatever is right there at the forefront of your mind, that's your work. That's what needs to be looked at, to be questioned. So spend some time with this today. It says just for a few minutes, a couple of times a day, and look at your thoughts. What crosses your mind? These thoughts do not mean anything. What do you feel when you say that? What comes up within you when you say these thoughts do not mean anything? Is it resistance, or is it some kind of liberating feeling? Like, thank goodness. I'll see you tomorrow.